Wrestling Mindset, Chapter 7, Clarity. This is flow part 3 right here. We've all been in the flow before in a match, in the zone, where we feel like we just can't miss. Everything seems to be hitting. Everything seems to be moving in slow motion, and then at the end, it seems like time just flew by. That's what we're looking for, the flow. And this is part 3 of the flow, clarity. When wrestlers get nervous, they stop thinking clear. They start thinking about a lot of different things, they confuse themselves, and it's very important if you want to feel this peak performance state that you're clear with your goals. You know exactly what you're going to do, because that's the first thing that goes out the window when you get nervous. So, clarity. What we want you to do is make 3 lists here. 1 for neutral, 1 for top, 1 for bottom. Let's start with neutral. Know your top 2 takedowns. It's very important to be very clear, knowing exactly what you're going to look for on your feet. So make a list, top 2 takedowns. Now when you practice, that's what you're going to predominantly focus on. You're going to have all these other takedowns you're going to do, but make sure also these top 2 takedowns you're spending time on, going back to it over and over and over. Also, you want to have a motto, a sentence, a phrase, something that you're telling yourself on your feet. So when I was on my feet in matches, I would think a real scoring machine. That was in my head, a scoring machine. And I heard that about Cael Sanderson before. So my model was Cael Sanderson. So my phrase was scoring machine, my model was Cael Sanderson, and then my cue was a quick clap on my feet. So when I was moving around in my stance, boom, I gave a quick clap. And that reminded me, scoring machine. So everything was summed up in that clap right there. And I did that frequently in practice and in matches. You can't just do it in matches. If you just do it in matches, it's not going to have the same effect. You need to pair the cue and the symbol and the feeling over and over and over. So it always begins in practice. So your top 2 takedowns on your feet, you know your cue, your symbol, and your word that you're going to tell yourself over and over. So the scoring machine, Cael Sanderson, and the clap, like I did. But you have to pick one for yourself. Now do the same thing on top. On top, think of your top 2 breakdowns. Write them down. What are your breakdowns, your pinning combinations? And you're going to have a lot of different things on top, but really focus in on 2 things. Also very important, have your first move on top. You have to know exactly where you're going to off the whistle, whether it's the beginning of the period or whether it's the very end of the match. Regardless of the score, you got to do the same thing over and over. You see wrestlers time and time again, at the end of the match, they start doing something different. There's 10 seconds left in the match, they have a stalling against them, they change things up, they do things differently. No good. It's the same thing over and over and over. So, top 2 breakdowns, know your first move on top, and then the same thing we did on our feet. What's the phrase you're going to tell yourself? Maybe you're going to tell yourself, I'm a bulldozer. And that's your symbol in your head also. You're thinking bulldozer, where you just run things over. And then before you get on top, you clench your fists. I know Gregor Gillespie, before he got on top, he always did a bounce. Every time before he got on top, he did a bounce. So do something like that. And remember again, practice and matches. Don't wait to do this in matches. It has to be over and over and over. Just as often as you practice your technique, you have to practice that same cue. So you have your bulldozer, you clench your fists, or you do your bounce, whatever it is for you. And you know your top 2 breakdowns. So when the coach says drill on your own on top, you know exactly what you're going to do. Same thing on bottom. Top 2 moves on bottom. How are you going to get out? And also knowing your first move off the whistle. Every time, your first move off the whistle, you should know it off the top of your head. Very important. You don't have to be a world-class wrestler to commit to doing the same thing off the whistle every single time. So your first move off the whistle on bottom, and your 2 moves you're going to use to escape and to get out, to escape or reverse. Knowing that. And make sure you do that all the time. Pair the cue. Now again, you're having your cue, your thought, your phrase, it's all got to be there. So on bottom, maybe you're picturing yourself as a bull who never gets rode, that bucks people off them. And you're just telling yourself, get out. The simple phrase, get out, over and over and over. So you're not thinking about, oh, I just got broken down, he just returned me to the mat, wasting all this precious time and all this thought on something that doesn't matter. Just keep telling yourself, get out. If you have to make it stronger emotionally, using some stronger language or more powerful wording, do it over and over and over. Have your symbol, have your cue, and do it over and over. Okay, so that's clarity, the flow part 3 right there. Stay with us, Wrestling Mindset.